Welcome back to my channel. I'm Nicole Marett, and in this video, I'm going to show you how I achieved this split look. Now, there are a lot of techniques to this cup. I did my inks, I did my Milky Way, and I threw down a STICKERCAL on top of that. We have a lot of work to do, so come along for the ride, and let's get to work. First, we need to start off with a prepped cup. It is sanded, it is cleaned, there's no oils from our fingers, and I spray painted it to just get a basic white base. We're gonna section it off with some tape. This is a little tricky. When I put it down the first time, I realized that my seam was right down the middle of the tape. Well, that's not gonna work. So let's go ahead and let's adjust the tape, and it looks like I'm using my left side of my tape here and the right side of my other tape. That's about right in the middle. I've made that mistake before in the past, and I'm not gonna do it again. Let's get to inking. The trick to putting the inks down is you have to work with the curve. So I have a little bit of alcohol in this little cup over here, and I'm just going to fan out my colors. I'm gonna pounce my brush and get lots of ripples, and I'm going to dry it quickly by blowing on it. Don't rush it. Be patient with it, and the more condensed the area is, the darker it's going to be. But always know that when you put a fresh coat, or if you pick up your brush and you place it back down, it's going to give you a brand new impression. Pay attention to the curve. That is the most annoying part of this entire process, is when you're inking cups and you want to have really bold colors and you want to add a lot of ink. It'll run. So you want to catch it before it runs, especially on this cup because we have our tape. We don't want it to run to the other side. This is my little blower guy. Sometimes when I want a direct stream of air, I'll use this tool. This is the Tim Holtz blowing tool. Now I'm going to pick up my white, and I'm going to just throw it down here randomly in a space, and I'm going to work in that green. It's gonna lighten it up with the white, and just work with it, push it around, fan it out, blow on it, and you can soften out some areas. If you don't like the way something looks, go ahead and just go over it again. Just experiment with it. And I'm only using my green and my white for now. I wanna pay attention to how much I put down and how quickly I pounce on it with my brush and how quickly it dries. So I'm picking up my larger brush here, and I'm gonna pounce over this white. Guys, it is all about the approach you take with what you're using. And now you can see that it is blowing out. It's starting to look like an ink cup. We still have a bit of a ways to go. I want it to have more bolder colors of green in there before I come in with my gold. Oh, we got a drip. Oh, we got a drip on the other side. Oh no. Okay. It's okay, we're gonna roll with it. I'm going to smooth it out, and I'm gonna go with it because what happened, happened. There are no mistakes in the studio. It is all a learning process, and art is about trial and error. Okay, so now you can see I'm getting heavier with my alcohol, and I'm getting heavier with my brush pounces. I am taking a little bit of a more aggressive approach to this because I want to see drastic difference in the cup, and I don't want to see those runoffs. I like that effect right there. It kind of looks like a blown out light. So that's good. I want to leave that one alone. And you can see here that I'm only using one shade of green, but getting a lot of different shades on the cup. That's because I'm using lots of alcohol. I'm using a blow technique. I'm also using my brush to spread it out. So you don't really need a lot to get different variations when you're doing your ink. You just have to keep playing. Play, play, play. There you go. Now you can see cells popping up. You can always reactivate your inks with a little spritz of your alcohol or a little drop of alcohol. You just have to make sure that you're in control of the ink and it's not going to run off the side of your cup. Now we're going to open our TEEKS, and we're gonna see what kind of detail we get with this. Now, TEEKS is a very powdery, pigmented ink. It's gonna float on top. It's gonna kind of take shape of the veins that you see on your cup. The pigment is just going to follow the outlines that you've already made. So you can manipulate it as much as you can, but eventually it's going to come together. TEEKS and the metallic colors work well with air and gravity, not necessarily pushing it with your brush or blending it. I kind of use my popsicle stick to kind of guide it into the crevices a little bit, but I'm just barely dabbing it. I'm not mixing it. I'm just kind of leading the way. I don't necessarily want to use my brush on this because then it's going to muddy up your gold. I'm going to put some right here in this corner. I just want to make sure that I have enough gold kind of veining out throughout the cup to make it look balanced. If you put a little bit of alcohol down, you can break it up to where you can get lots of cells, but mainly I'm just tilting my cup and letting my TEEKS go where it wants to settle. It's kind of like a highlighting tool. And I find that using the blowing tool is a lot more concentrated air rather than blowing on it using my mouth. I don't want to have a huge billow of air come out because then that's when you get the splatters. You want to have just a little tiny directed flow of air. Okay, I think that's gonna do it. I'm about done. I can mess with this for at least another year. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna leave it alone. And I'm gonna concentrate on the back of the cup where I got my ink runoff, and I'm gonna dilute it with a little bit of alcohol and kind of mix it in. I'll give it a base color for my green glitter that we're gonna put down. We're not gonna panic. So what you didn't see that was done off camera is I took this outside and I sprayed it with some Camar varnish. It's a very important tool to use when sealing your inks. If you've noticed, sometimes when you put your epoxy down on some of your inks, they get distorted or they lose their color or they're not just as vibrant. I put the Camar varnish on to act as a barrier between the breaking up of the epoxy and the colors. You really want to spray this down and seal your inks before you apply your resin, or in this case, before I put my tape down. I am a little nervous on pulling up any of my inks because I have it just the way I like it. So I sealed it, and now I brought it back inside and we're going to attack the other side. Okay, here I am. I mixed up 10 mLs of my epoxy and I'm going to just lightly coat the opposite side of our cup, wanting to make sure you get every surface area covered because this is where we're going to drop down our glitter. And I'm just barely grazing the brim and the bottom brim of the cup. I don't want to cover this entirely with glitter on the bottom, but I do want to make sure that if it's not inked, it is glittered. All right, what we're using here, we have MADDNESS, diamonds, and Phone Home. I like this blend of color. I think it works perfect together. So let's go ahead and drop that down. First up, we're gonna grab our Phone Home and I'm gonna spiral it out. I'm just kind of dropping it wherever it goes. I'm not too worried about it being controlled or in a line, nothing like that. No definitive separation of the colors. I like it to blend out. So I'm just gonna drop it naturally where it falls before I pick up my next color. This is the chunky one, so I feel it's a lot heavier, so it's gonna fall wherever I drop it. So I'm just gonna use it straight from the container. Now I am trying to have a steady hand and make sure that I don't let a big glob of glitter fall on my cup because I still wanna leave room for my diamonds. Now we're gonna attack the other side, same thing. We want it to look natural. We don't want it to have a sharp line. So we're just going to sprinkle to the left. Again, no big drops of color. Now for our diamonds, and I'm just gonna fill in this area right here. I'm kind of liking that the inks kind of spread over to this side because it gives it a base color. It definitely makes it look more vibrant, more green, and more abstract. Now this is my favorite part. I love peeling up the tape. to reveal that sharp line of glitter. Ah, it's so perfect. We did it. We have one side glittered and one side inked. We're gonna let this dry before we move on to the next step. Okay, we are back. What I did between the time we worked last and now is I sealed my glitter and I put one layer of epoxy down. Now we're gonna come back with our second layer of epoxy, but only this time we are going to Milky Way that glitter. So we're using 3 here. I'm putting down my white first, which is my hold up. Then I'm gonna use my white gold, and lastly, I will use my golden egg. All of these can be found on my site, and I will link them down in the description below. Now I wanna have super controlled flow of this Milky Way because there is a layer of epoxy down already. I do not want it to run into the inked area. So I'm paying very, very close attention to how much epoxy and how much mixture I have on my stick. Less is best in this particular situation. And I'm just going to make little happy lines, and we want some movement, but we don't want it to move so much that it crosses over. It also helps if you let your epoxy sit a little bit so that it's nice and thick and it doesn't want to run too much. I would let it sit for about 20 minutes before you actually start applying. That way it's super thick and the mixture that you put in it will thicken it up as well. So I picked up a popsicle stick, and this is what I usually use whenever I'm veining out. I like to use both sides, the flat side and the thin side of it. You can vary the thickness of your lines with one single stroke just by rotating your stick. Right, so far so good. We have no crossover. Now we're gonna add some white gold. And this is a shimmer. It goes on white, but it will reflect flecks of gold. So I'm gonna buddy it up with my hold up, and I'm gonna see how we can break up some of the white with your tones of gold. And I'm just letting it tiger stripe out before I come in with my gold. And I'm gonna look at this very closely and see where I want to place it. So I come in with just the edge of my popsicle stick, and I kind of pair it up next to my whites. And I'm using the spine of my stick to get those sharp lines. We want it to have a standout look, but we don't want it to take over the cup. Making sure that we have gold balanced throughout the entire cup. I think I'm pretty happy with this. We're gonna hit it with a torch, and we're gonna pop any bubbles and give it a slight bit of movement, because movement is good. Movement is what makes the Milky Way. It makes it look less controlled and more organic. You can add a little bit more here and there, just as long as you stay within the line. Now what I'm gonna do is I have a gloved hand. I'm gonna come back and I'm going to kind of feather out this gold. I kind of realized I don't want it to stand out so much and be so concentrated. So I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna feather it out with a light touch, wiping off my excess. This will allow the gold to kind of cell out, make little cells and little veins. So let's just go ahead and let's just play with this a little bit. When this is cured, you're gonna wanna come back and you're gonna wanna add another layer of epoxy. Once that's done, fill your cup for any rough edges. If you need to, definitely go ahead and sand it down and take it back for a final coat of epoxy. So this was the last second decision that I kind of jumped on. I saw these peacocks and they just spoke to me, so I went ahead and I threw them on. Unfortunately, I did not get that on camera. This is a STICKERCAL from Banff. I will link her down in the description below as well. I wanted to add something else to this cup. I needed more depth, I needed more character. This STICKERCAL was gonna let my Milky Way shine through, but also have the artwork that I'm looking for. I think this is perfect. I am obsessed with this cup. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope I was able to clarify any mysteries of inks or any mystery of Milky Way. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, please drop me a comment below. And as always, like, subscribe, and I'll be seeing you soon.